Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smart Trucking Live. Controlled Chaos is here. John M. is here on his way to New York City. Yep, that is kind of scary. Paul Hudson, happy Halloween from Illinois. Roger Penske's here. James Cheeks is here. Good afternoon, everyone from the deer stand in the Virginia mountains. Cool place to be. Kelly Patterson's here. Lee Harvey is here. Marcus King is here. Kyle's here. And I saw Fred Bismer. There he is in Battle Creek. Fred, I was meaning to ask you, does JR still work there at Mercer's? If he does, tell him I said hi. Don't tell him I'm wearing this hat though. This is my Halloween costume. They requested that I be
Not they, your people.
a fairy princess.
Your people.
Well, this is the closest I could get. This is a Cossack princess from Siberia. So, borrowed the crown and everything here. Let me fix it up there. I don't know if I'll be able to hang on to it very long. No, it's hot as hell on my head right here.
We got lots of complaints about the volume here.
Marcus King is here. Jeff Sutton, good afternoon from Gravenhurst. Pretty close. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Where did these...
Tim Field. Hey, Jeff Sutton, I remember you from the Melbourne days. Oh, I guess my mic's in. Swap mics. There, how's that one? Is that any better? Cabano 960. I find twin sticks cool. Does anyone else agree? I agree. And the Lettuce King agrees, and we're going to have him on one of these days soon to do a talk about twin sticks, because he's got a real burr up his butt about these fake twin sticks that everyone's putting in their trucks now and pretending they're driving a twin stick when they really aren't. Can you guys hear me okay here now? We had a bit of a mic issue here. Everybody hear me all right? Okay. James Crosby. Looking good, Dave. Is the Mad Trapper come on? Yep. Yeah. The Mad Trapper. I think I like that a little better than the Cossack Princess. Happy Halloween from Roman. Lee Harvey, 5x5. It means you can hear me. Hey, there's SoCal. How are you doing, SoCal? How much longer do you have to recover before you can go back to driving, SoCal? I was thinking about that after the last stream. You're down for a little while anyway, I guess, eh? Let me know. Jonathan Mestrel here. Good. Thank you, Jonathan. I think we got the sound here. I think we got it sound back. So, Jeff says, nice hat. As I say, Jeff, I don't know how much longer I'll be able to keep on to it. It's hot in this thing. I'll try to do my best anyway. But so what's going on, everybody? Everyone's out in trucking. I saw someone with a load of furniture there. Good afternoon from Iowa. How are you doing, Dave and Kathy? Riley. Hey Riley, we're doing good. 100% better, Fred says. Good afternoon, Big Dog Trucker. So Jonathan says, is your costume a Canadian? Well, kind of, yeah. Eskimo princess. Tim Field says, Eskimo princess. Never a princess.
Just a bridesmaid.
Yeah. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Andrew Pfeiffer, have the weekend home and off in BC. That's kind of nice, Andrew. Good man. Nice to have a weekend once in a while. I generally worked weekends. If I had any time off, it was generally through the week, but everything leaves for the coast on a Friday, so I generally worked every weekend. But that was all right. I liked that. That suited me fine.
Kyle, thank you very much for the 10 beans, my friend. After this, I got to get working on my 2005 379, trying to get the paint finished up. Thank you very much for the donation, my friend.
Hey, Kyle, I appreciate the donation. I hope you send us pictures of that truck when you got it done. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Jeff Rees, enjoying a cholesterol here in Ohio.
Jeff, I can't tell you the last time I ate at McDonald's. Years and years and years and years ago. Oh, it's been a while anyway. Never really was a fan of McDonald's too much.
Ford V8 coming in with the 10 as well. Thank you very much for that. What was the scariest thing you've ever seen driving down the road? I've had one trucker tell me that there's 2 days of the year that he never drives, Halloween night and New Year's Eve.
Huh. I'd have to think back about that, but I can tell you honestly, every once in a while, they had the night before Halloween was called Devil's Night or something like that, and every once in a while, back in the day, I'd have to cross the bridge into Detroit on Devil's Night, and I never had an issue, but I always kind of worried about it. I was never very happy. Lettuce King got a bag of cement on the roof of his bunk one year going through Flint, Michigan, Devil's Night. Dented the bunk, but no, I never had any problem that way. But I think that was the scariest. Some of the roads I got stuck on, like in Caprini Green in Chicago and stuff like that. I think those were the scariest things I ever saw on the road. Or I was in the projects in Oakland one time, got lost and ended up in the projects. That was scary. So those kind of things. Stuck in New York City. Oh, Kyle says, will do. Full fenders are taking forever to show up, and Peterbilt has a back order on fasteners for the sleeper back fairings. Yeah, it's hard to get parts for anything right now, eh? SoCal says, I encountered a wrong way driver on the interstate once. That happened to me actually once on 69 down by Fort Wayne, which scared the hell out of me, and that guy knew he was on the wrong side. And the other time I right up here, right up just south of Perry Sound, and I don't think that guy did know. He was just driving along. I had to get out of his road. That was scary. James Crosby. I was out by Harrisburg. Someone threw a pumpkin off a bridge. Almost came through my window of cab over Max. Scared the shit out of me. Yeah, that would wake you right up. I had a kid put an ice ball through the windshield of my 84 Kenworth one time. Just completely shattered the one side. I ended up, and it was a Sunday, of course, and I couldn't see anything. I ended up having to swap glasses. So I put the shattered piece on the passenger side just to keep the wind out because it was winter, and drove with the other piece on the other side just so I could see. I was like that all the way to Calgary before I got into a glass place that could swap it around. Huh. Kyle says, I get rocks thrown at me going through Portland past the homeless people. Yep. I had, Candlestick Park. I had kids throwing rocks at my brand new Pete out there one time. So I don't miss any of that stupid stuff. Ryan, if there's such a driver shortage, I'm still waiting for my 2290 to clear to get a license plate for my truck. IRS claiming can take up to 20 business days before they can verify the EIN number. Government, your tax dollars at work. That seems a little ridiculous, doesn't it? Dave, what do you know about UPS drivers? I know they make pretty good money for the most part. I know they're unionized for the most part. I know a division of UPS just got bought by a company out of Montreal that's a big carrier up here, and I read they're going to start closing down yards. They've picked out 4 of them. They're going to close 2 in Virginia, 1 in Chicago. They haven't named the 4th so far, but M-Cakes, thinking about getting into trucking. What company would you recommend looking into? I like the long distance traveling you do. It depends on where you live, M-Cakes. There's a few good carriers around. I'd try to pick a carrier close to home. Always like GP Transco. They hire out of all 48 states. They're good, honest people. It would depend on where you live. Fred Besmer, outside of Hunts Point Market in the Bronx. Yeah, that's a scary place. I haven't had to go there in years, thank God. Fred, you've obviously been there as well.
A Ford V8 once again with another donation of $20 this time. Really appreciate that. Thank you. It says love the channel. Thank you very much for the generosity.
Thank you. Two Wookiees and a pancake. Breaker, can I get a radio check? Ta 4, it's working, man. Kick it back. M Cakes in Southern California. How is it doing out there these days? I miss parts of California, and parts of California I don't, but pretty. I can see why everybody wanted to live in California 60 years ago. The weather's just always perfect. Tim Field says, M Cakes, go for smaller fleets if you can. So if back to M Cakes, I would try GP Transco. They'll hire out of California. Where are we here? Kelly Patterson, M-Text. They hire out of California. Kelly lives in Oregon, and he works for GP Transco. Kyle says, I do 84 a lot, Cabbage Hill all the time. I like 84. It can be, it can be serious work in the wintertime, but I always like traveling through Portland. Portland, Oregon. Not Portland so much, but Oregon's beautiful, beautiful state. The worst conventional you ever drove. Jeff wants to know the worst conventional I ever drove. I'm thinking about that. I had an S model International that I drove for a carrier years and years ago, and I didn't care for it very much. I don't even think they make those anymore. I think they call them a business class International now, that's a Freightliner. But no, S class International, I guess it was. Didn't care for it. Lots of room, just I don't know. Didn't feel like a truck.
I think he's looking for a piece of crap that you drove, really unadulterated piece of junk.
I wouldn't drive junk. That was my rule. One of my rules. I wouldn't drive junk. So they were all, I never drove a truck that was falling apart, if that's what you're asking. I turned down a few. Tim Field says, Dave, he's a new driver. Doesn't he need a year of experience at GP? Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think he does. I'm trying to think of who else is out of California that he could get on with. My buddy has a 2300 International dump trucks with a Cummins 10-speed, fun rig to run. 2300 dump truck. So like a, what do you call it? Like a mid-class, like a working class International. What else we got? Yeah, SoCal says, Oregon is beautiful, but the pollen there drove me nuts during allergy season. Never thought of that. I don't suffer from allergies, but yeah, I could believe that out there. But pretty country. This Trucking Life says, I've noticed many more GP Transco trucks on the road this year. I think they're growing leaps and bounds. I think they're doing a lot of stuff right, and it's working for them. John M. says, Dave, people complain about the lack of camaraderie these days. How do you think we get that back? There were the CB radios, and there were the areas in the restaurant and the truck stops where everybody could sit together and chew the fat. And I gather most truck stop restaurants are a thing of the past now, that it's all fast food and stuff. But I would try to chat with another driver when I sat down for dinner, and I would certainly get back to using the CB more and more, and encourage my friends to as well. We thought that was a marvelous tool. Hey, Captain Nice Guy's here. Swift, see what I flipped today.
Philip Reed with the $10 donation. My man, thank you very much for that. Hey, Dave, if you could have any truck, no matter the price, which one would you choose? Mine would be a 7580 International TransStar 47D. Thank you very much for the 10 beans.
If I could have any truck, I would have, like a 1980-81 W900A long hood. Either a 3408 or a KTA Cummins with 2 sticks, flat top bunk. That'd be, if I could have anything, and power steering for sure. The only bad thing I didn't like about those 900As was you needed a football field to turn the thing around. So power steering would be a huge help. But that's my dream truck. I drove one actually in 1980, but it was a company truck. It wasn't my truck, but that was my favorite truck of all of them. Jeff Rees, yes, we see some Bigfoot up in the wilds of Canada. Some dumb trucker. Is there any place in Canada and the U.S. that sells twin stick spicers? Nobody stocks them anymore. You kind of have to go online and search for them. I know the Lettuce King just stays online and finds the occasional setup. There's one down in Kansas, a guy that he talks to, and another guy out in Alberta, believe it or not. But yeah, you just have to keep your eye out for them and check the internet. Shannon's here. Shannon says power steering. Kids these days have no idea what they have. That's true, Shannon. But yeah, I believe I mentioned this before about trying to get the Lettuce King on to do the. And we've been talking about doing a twin stick thing with the Lettuce King. Is that what you're talking? A video with the Lettuce King, interviewing him about twin sticks, and I was telling everyone how the twin sticks, the fake twin sticks, drive him nuts. Southern Indiana Sawmill, love your channel. Thank you. Family man here, wife and 4 young kids. I'm looking to get a CDL and get a day driving job. Any advice? I'd go for somebody close to where you live, and if possible, I'd try to get local delivery work in an area like outlying one of the big cities, if possible, depending on what you're going to be driving. If you're going to be driving a 5-ton, it doesn't matter if you're working like downtown Indianapolis or something like that. But if it's a semi, I try to get more like outlying work, like dump truck or something like that. Get you home every night, but didn't put you into the inner city. Cubano, Dave, do you stick your arm in the steering wheel to shift the twin sticks? No, I've seen guys do that. That's not necessary. You can do one stick and then the other, and occasionally reach over and do the two. I would never stick my arm through the steering wheel, but I've seen guys do that. I don't recommend it, and you don't need to do it. So, SoCal, I actually drove a Freightliner cab over with no AC or power steering. Talk about a workout. And that TransStar, I learned in an old International TransStar with a 318 Detroit, it didn't have power steering. And you almost had to get up in the seat and pull the wheel around. It could get so tough when there was weight on the steering axle. It was a real workout in town. Like, it was nice because it was short wheelbase, but you really had to work to turn that thing. Cubano says fake twin sticks are dumb. Chrome Shop Mafia's made a fortune selling those fake 2 sticks. I think they look stupid. Drives the Lettuce King insane when he sees one of those setups. He had a guy pull into his driveway here a couple of months back, and he was bragging about he'd got a set of twin sticks. And the first thing the Lettuce King did was dive underneath the truck to see if he was telling the truth. They were just fakes. The Lettuce King looked up. There was only the one transmission there. The guy was just trying to. Yeah. The Lettuce King was mad about being lied to. As if he wouldn't be smart enough to look for himself. Shannon Girdle, Southern Indiana Sawmill. Some companies have awesome insurance. Remember that when you're considering your pay. Yeah, and that's good advice. Good advice. Thanks, Shannon. Appreciate that. A steering wheel can snap your arm like a twig. If you had the old Armstrong steering, that could come back in you. And that's why they didn't like those spinners on the wheel. I was always a fan of the spinners, but man, on Armstrong steering, if the wheel spun back and one of those spinners cracked you in the forearm, you could break a bone. SoCal, chasing a 20-foot pup to the dock with no power steering was hell. yeah, those little short trailers, you'd just be up and down, and crank left, crank and right. Just be a wild show some days, especially with a short trailer. Southern Indiana Sawmill, thanks guys. I've heard some horror stories and appreciate your advice. Happy to help. Driving can be really good if you're worth the right outfit. So I hope you do find the right outfit. And if it doesn't feel right after a couple months, don't be afraid to change, because there's all sorts of good outfits out there. You don't want to end up spending part of your career with a bunch of screwballs.
Akis, thank you very much for the 2 beans. Are there any trucks that ride cars smooth?
You know what? I rode in a Volvo one time that rode like a car. I don't know if they're all like that, but I rode in a Volvo and the whole thing was air ride, and it rode really nicely. Other than that, I haven't tried all the new trucks. A lot of the new trucks are really good, but I remember riding in this Volvo and being impressed. Someone wanted to know why I've got this hat on inside. That's all I can do with the hat. You reminded me I was breaking into a sweat there. Getting into cryo tankers pretty soon. Got any experience with cryo? No, I've never done that. That should be interesting stuff. My guess is you've got to be fairly careful. And I never have done that. I've done all sorts of tanker work, but never cryos. Did you ever do much animal hauling work, Dave? Jeff? No, I didn't. The guy that taught me to drive pulled bull racks, and I went with him kind of while I got the hang of it years and years and years ago. And I couldn't sleep because those things rock and rolled in the trailer all night. The trailer moved always, and back then the trucks were spring ride, and the truck would jump as the cattle moved around. And I never slept any night I was out in that truck with him. So that was enough for me to cure me from hauling livestock. And I wasn't too happy about having to clean out the trailer either. So, no, I knew that wasn't going to be my path. SoCal says his meaning his truck, his Volvo, 17 years old and it still rides smooth. So they do ride nice. They do ride nice. The other thing I remember about that Volvo is that was the first time, like in the trucks that we had, if you're running double, the guy in the bunk was held in the bunk with seat belts. And this Volvo I was in had like mesh netting rather than the seat belts. And I remember looking at that and thinking that was a really smart idea. That was a long time ago. And they were doing that way better than trying to sleep with a couple of seat belts around you. So Jeff, I hope that answers your question. I don't know why I've got the jacket on, just because it's fairly cool here. And we're getting into late fall in northern Ontario. But the hat was overkill. The fur hat was killing me, so appreciate it. And it was my costume. That was supposed to be my costume. So Nick says it was a lame attempt, but Jeff says, here in the Midwest, I see a lot of livestock haulers, usually driven by either a Pete or a Kenworth. Jeff, the livestock haulers still don't have to run electronic logs. So you got to like that about it. They can kind of pretty much run their own schedules. And that would be good. I miss not being able to do that. SoCal says he's still got the netting in the bunk there. Yeah, that was the first time I ever saw that. Much smarter idea than the seatbelt thing. Man, I remember running double with Donnie Palmer in a cab over Freightliner, and you had to put these damn seatbelts on because it would just flip you right out of the bed. It rode so rough, and I remember thinking, what a stupid setup that was. Long wheelbase does help the ride. A short truck will buck. Kyle says that, and he's absolutely right. short trucks will buck. Mine, my truck's a 280. It rides pretty damn nice, especially with a loaded trailer on the back. But it doesn't ride like a car. It still rides like a truck. Andrew Pfeiffer, chain up lights were on the Kootenai Pass, Highway 3, BC on Thursday. Yeah, it's wintertime out there. I see Donner's got a real dump there last week too, and they literally shut the road down for a couple of days while they dug out. But boy, that Highway 3 in BC, I used to run that all the time. Like Selma, Creston Hill, I delivered a lot into Castlegar. Ford F-100 is 260 a long wheelbase for a Canadian truck. It is. For a U.S. truck, that's about average. And depending on the kind of truck, like if it's a 260 wheelbase with a drop nose hood, yeah, that's a fairly long wheelbase for a drop nose. Grill Mortal is here. Hey man, how are you? Where's the Great Pumpkin Schneider truck? I was going to cheat. Grill Mortal. I'll tell you the truth. I looked at one of my little toy trucks and I was just going to spray paint it orange and tell you guys I carved it, but I just didn't get around to it. Jeff, I feel like the wheelbase is one of the hardest decisions to make with a truck. Long wheelbase and you have swing way big turning radius for short wheelbase is a rough ride. Jeff, I like my 280. I think it's the best of both worlds. I can pull the trailer far enough up forward that I get all sorts of weight on the steering axle if I want. I've always got clearance behind the bunk, so I never have to worry about whacking the trailer or anything like that. I've been very happy with the 280. I've had a couple of trucks with that wheelbase, and that's worked for me. I got a buddy, Richard, that runs a 312 wheelbase, and it's a huge thing. But, man, he gets that around like no problem at all, so he's a better driver than I am, though. Maybe that's why. Kelly Patterson says, I see liquid hydrogen tankers and think, brr. Yeah, you don't want to stick your hand in that cargo. Girl Mortal, drive a Hino and pray for organ donation. I've never driven a Hino either, so I can't. They don't even make a big truck, do they? Hinos are just like little city delivery trucks. The only ones I've ever seen, anyway. Little city delivery trucks. Pray for an organ donation.
2 Wookiees and a pancake coming in with the 5 beans. Thank you very much for that. First truck was a Freightliner cab over, straight rail truck. No power steering. Why did they start putting the Jake on the column trailer brake on the dash? Thank you very much for the 5.
Some outfits just thought that was a handy place to put it. I never cared for that setup myself, but I just like the usual. But yeah, some companies do that. The cab overs, some of them had that set up. But Cubano says, Dave, will there ever be a collab with Twin Stick Garage in the future? We contacted him, and he never did get back to us because we wanted to do exactly that. We never heard back from him though. But maybe there's no phone out in his garage there. But yeah, he does some interesting stuff. I like watching him do the wrecking yard searches for cool old trucks. I swear I saw one out there that I used to drive that he found. Lee Harvey, I still sport a scar over my left eye from getting tossed around in a bunk in an 88 International cab over. Yeah, that cab over Freightliner that I was in with Donnie Palmer, the first couple bumps we hit that taught me to put on the seatbelts. The bed actually flipped me right out onto the floor. Did that a couple of times. I was just airborne, did a 180, face down on the floor, and I couldn't take too much of that. And that was when I went looking and found the seatbelts. I don't think anyone really would. There's a reason they don't make twin sticks anymore. Sometimes the stick linkage would jam. Kyle, and they did too. And they always, when they were going to lock up and jam underneath, they never did it on dry road. It was always on a really crappy, rainy or snowy day. They never, or just after you'd come out of the truck stop from getting a shower, get in the truck, get halfway down. I remember Lettuce King jammed up coming out of, he stopped in, I think it was West Memphis. He stopped into at at the Petro and got a shower and pulled out. And he said he hardly got to the end of the ramp and they locked up on him. Yeah, they had their disadvantages. Lettuce King still really likes his twin stick setup, but I'm quite happy with the 18. I never have to get underneath the thing. Excuse me. Tim Field, Dave, what do you think of the Western Star 4900? Been looking at them. Might get a new one in the future if things go better for owner-operators. I had, as a company truck, a Western Star, a brand new Western Star in 1980. And it was one of the nicest trucks I ever drove. The upholstery had to be like this thick and spongy, and warm. The cabs were really narrow back then. Like I could reach across and roll down the passenger window, but it was a really, really nice truck. They're a little heavier, but they're built solid, or at least they were back then. And I know the guys like them. The guys that have them like them. They had a problem with they make one great big bunk and the sleeper shelves kept falling down. That's the only problem I've heard about them. That was in the big bunks. Who's hit the roof in a cab over? I have. Grilled mortal. I have. I've got a this is Kyle. I've got a 1980 Western Star fun truck, 8V92 silver with a 13-speed. What a beautiful girl that'd be. So, Kyle, do you have that really heavy roll and tuck button upholstery like the one I had? Man, it was beautiful inside. Narrow cab. Maybe that was part of why it was so warm. Was the cab was small, but that never bothered me. But God, I liked that truck. I went out. They were being built in Kelowna, British Columbia back then, and the company that I was working for actually sent me out to pick up my truck and a couple others that they piggybacked on the back, and I got a quick tour. Everything was built. There was no assembly line back then. It was just they just put it up on blocks and built it right on the frame rails, right on these blocks, and that's how they did it back then. God, they were nice trucks. Roger Penske says, come down to Phoenix and I'll take you down to the port. I'd love to go to the port. I haven't been there in a long time, but I think I heard somewhere the other day they've got like 100 ships backed up out there now. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they were saying. They're up to 100 ships, and Biden wants all the containers cleaned out by tomorrow. So I don't think that's going to work out for him. Jeff, any thoughts on the 372 Pete, the weirdly shaped cab over? Yeah, the one we call the football. I never cared for the look of them. I guess the engine access was kind of cool because the front part would flip up on those, but they weren't. I like the more traditional looking stuff. Have you seen Gentry and Sons YouTube channel? I haven't, Cabano. Do you like it? I haven't. I'll go looking for it if you recommend it. Andrew says Dilmer parts still made in Kelowna, but not assembled there anymore. Loads of them are nice and light. Huh. They're still in Kelowna, huh? The plant's still there. I haven't been there in years and years. Trucking life. Let's go, Brandon. Isn't that something else? What's going on down there? We should have something like that up here, some sort of a chant. Fred says they stopped production of the Western Star 4900X in December. They're stopping production of it in December. No kidding, Fred. Just not selling? Huh. Well, that's interesting. That's probably the last of the long-head Western Stars then, I would guess. I'm not sure. I actually like the look of the drop nose Western Stars. Check out Gentry's channel. He's building up a trucking fleet of cab overs. I will check that out. I like the old cab overs. Huh. I'm going to check that channel out for sure. What's your opinion on the W990? I'm not really that thrilled about the 990. Like I know that you can you can replace different pieces of the hood rather than having to replace the whole hood, but it looks reminiscent of like an old 4300 TransStar International to me. Even the profile and even where they put the window in the bunk and stuff. I haven't been in one. I'm sure they're a nice tight truck, like Kenworth. They all are nice tight trucks. I just don't care for the look of it that much. And I've seen there's a couple of them running around here. I like the 900 better. Shocker. Are you interested in European trucks, Scania, MAN, etc.? I really like the new cab over Scanias, and I was listening to a YouTube video the other day that they had a car with the windows down following one of these big 700 or 770 horse Scanias as it accelerated off a light, and it sounded completely different than American truck. But I really like the Scanias, the cab overs. I really like. They were supposed to come here I heard a couple of years ago they were coming here to North America, and I still haven't seen one over here. Jeff, which do you prefer of the cab overs? Pete's, the 352 or the 362? I like them both. The 360, there wasn't a whole lot of difference there. I like the 362s because I like the 3 windshield wipers and the fact that you could squeeze a bigger engine under the cab of the 362. But I take either one as long as it had the big double bunks. Those were massive inside the double bunk flat top cab over Pete's. Those things look cool as hell. I like those. Opinions on the FLD Freightliner 120. Cabano, you've got me at a disadvantage there. I don't know my Freightliners very well. If you could tell me like the year of the truck, then I could pull up a mental picture. Freightliner used to make like an old conventional flat hood, aluminum hood truck. Fred will remember Forbes Hewlett had a bunch of them. And I thought those were sharp looking trucks. But the newer ones, I was not sold on them. They were the first outfit that went to the aerodynamic trucks, and I never cared for those at all. Mind you, they got damn good fuel mileage because I worked with a guy that had one, and he was getting amazing fuel mileage. I just never liked the look of them, and they had terrible resale. Grilled Mortal says the 900s are nice, but you can't see the thing you just ran over. Yeah, they do have a blind spot out in front. Fred says, yes, my son tried to order one too late. No more build spots left on the 4900X. So that's how Fred knows. What do you know? That's too bad. They're a nice truck. I wonder what they'll do now. Just stick with the aerodynamic ones. And they're good-looking trucks. Yeah, Fred says our 49X is a cross between an International and a Cascadia. Tim says the W990 and the Freightliner 122 SD both look stupid because of their arrow headlights. If they get rid of that, they look like a great modern long hood. I'll have to pay attention to the headlights on the 990. I'm not sure what they look like. They're probably covered in the plastic, like a lot of the aerodynamic trucks, and that stuff always seems to fog up and go chalky after a while. Eh? Ford F100. I have a buddy who hauls cattle in the Carolinas. He just wrecked his truck, 80s model KW with a 3408 Cat and 18-speed. Oh man, sorry to hear. I hope he's okay, but what a loss. He'll be kicking himself for wrecking that. You can't hardly find those anymore. Beautiful truck. I hope he's okay. But so does anyone in this chat care that trucking? Where did that go? I have a buddy who hauls cattle in the Carolinas. He just wrecked his truck. Yeah,
They're goofy.
Yeah, the Trucking Life says they're goofy looking. Tim Field says the W990 looks like the truck from Ice Road Trucking movie with Liam Neeson. I can't remember what he was driving in that stupid movie. Was he?
Yeah.
I was so...
Nope, he was a Kenworth.
Was it? Because I remember thinking that Liam Neeson never did a worse movie. And I was looking forward to that movie. But God, that was a bad movie. I was in dangerous 50-mile-an-hour crosswinds on Wednesday in Kansas. This is Thunderstorm 87. Yeah, how would autonomous trucks survive that? That's a good question. There's all sorts of issues with those damn things. We won't see those things come to practical application in our lifetime. There are too many problems.
Jonathan, thank you very much for the 10 beans, my friend. Ever seen the K9? I didn't believe it, but I was proven wrong when I was real tired once. Looked like a lion with a huge mane. Scared the crap out of me, and I pulled over and went right to sleep. Thank you very much for the 10 beans.
Thanks, Jonathan. Girl, no, I haven't. Ever seen the K9? I'm not even sure what that is. I was real tired. Oh. Is this like the black dog thing? No, I haven't seen that. I never did see that thing. Grilled Mortal, International Trucks wired by Joseph Lucas, the inventor of darkness. You know what else? Those cab over Freightliners that we used to drive for Trimac. Those things, the terrible wiring. You hit a bump, you lose your headlights. And that happened to me one night in a really dark curve on 69. Scared the hell out of me. Ford F-100. I was in Kansas that day. The wind was awful. That's the day I got hit by a car who ran a light. Jeez. Yeah, that's a day you'll remember, I'm sure. I hope they charged them. Crosswinds. I remember having to sit out I-80 in Laramie, Wyoming a couple of times because of the crosswinds there. They can get brutal, and if you're not heavy, it can be trouble. Quadrajet King. I love my Max Force engine. Quadrajet King. You may be the only guy out there that loves those engines. They were not a popular motor. They had a lot of trouble. They damn near broke International. Ragavan says hello. Hey, Ragavan, how are you, man? Lone Star looks like the international curb sniffer that drove through a chrome shop and then ran into a corner. We were talking a few streams back about those, and I didn't think they were still making them, but apparently they are. Apparently they are. Love that Clinton pick, Quadrajet. That's from SoCal. It gives you the thumbs up. What do I think about the new truck engines with diesel exhaust fluids? I don't like them. They've got so many issues. Look at all these poor guys all around the country that have been shut down without these DEF sensors through the last 4 or 5 months. And they say they're working on a workaround. Haven't got it yet, as far as I've heard. How many speeds was a twin stick? Well, you could get all sorts of different combinations, but basically the biggest one was if you had a 6 and a 4, you had 24 gears. And 5 and 4, 20 years, and that's how it worked. And the nice thing about them was that a few of the gears would be so darn close, driveline wise, that you could pick one or the other and just bump or drop your RPM like a couple hundred RPM. They were ideal for any road, any grade, anything like that. And then the 18 speed came along and did virtually the same thing with no problems. But yeah, they were good for that. Back when the alternative was like a 10 speed or a 9 speed. If you had a set of sticks, you had a whole lot more gears to work with going up the hills, and that was nice. Thunderstorm 87, in honor of Halloween, what is the scariest truck stop you've been to? That old 76, what they called the Detroiter out on 75 South, just south of Detroit. That's the scariest truck stop I ever been to. And that was years and years ago, and you needed a gun to get in safely from the parking lot to the restaurant. I forget. I had to stop there to wait for something to go through customs or something like that one night. I couldn't believe what a hole that was, and that was years and years ago. And I don't know what it's like now, but it was the scariest one. Quadrajet is really the only good modern day engine out of all the options, and saying that Delmar owns Detroit now, and they sound really cool deleted. Huh. Interesting. I didn't know that. Thanks, Tim. Donald's angry. I was going to be down for a month waiting for a depth sensor. Thankfully, my company had one stashed away. Yeah, Donald, thousands of guys sat for months waiting for those things. I still don't think they've come up with a factory workaround, like a dealership workaround that they're allowed to do. Not that I've heard anyway. Yeah. SoCal says self-driving trucks are a long way off, Ragavan. Yes, sir. He's absolutely right. They just can't get all the bugs out of them. And they can't get the truck to think. They can't get it to anticipate and react. And that's the biggest problem. You know, a driver, a human, can see a kid about to step off the sidewalk and onto the road. The autonomous truck can't see that. It's stuff like that, decision making. The autonomous trucks can't make decisions, can't anticipate. There's Jeff Sutton. That Detroiter was a very scary place. I don't even know if that's still open over there anymore. There was a lot of real estate involved, but that was a dumpy old truck stop. Yeah, and Caleb remembers Gary, Indiana, back in the day, and there's another scary place that the old Steel City truck stop in Gary, Indiana. You had to be careful not to go in there after dark. Grilled Mortal says, I made a wrong to turn in Detroit at 3 a.m. once. I did that once or twice myself. I got lost on Michigan Avenue. I took a wrong turn off Michigan Avenue and ended up I forget that little canal bridge I ended up on. And I was pretty glad to get out of there unscathed. Yeah, Detroit is not a nice place at night. None of the really big cities are a good place to be at night. Yeah, SoCal said that's why he's so glad he didn't have DEF. Yeah, what a stupid idea these emission engines were. It's an IHOP now. Oh, really? It's an IHOP Flying J Detroiter now. So Flying J bought that property. Eh? Well, they've got the money, and there's a ton of real estate there, considering how close it is to the city. I'm sure the real estate is worth a fortune, but man, wouldn't be me. Grilled Mortal wondered why the Cadillacs in front of me was running all the red lights, so I did too. Yeah. It's a good idea in some parts of those neighborhoods, just not to stop at the lights. I know when you were headed, I think it was Fred was talking about Hunts Point earlier, but the rule was that if you went into Hunts Point at night, which you usually did, you didn't stop at the lights, because they'd hop on the back and try to unload your trailer while you were driving. You ran the red lights at night going into Hunts Point. Not happily. I only ever had to go there a couple of times, and even a couple was too many for me. I understand it's better there now, but man, back in the day it was not nice. Gary is still scary, says This Trucking Life. The new Petro they put in Gary isn't too bad. Like, I'll go in and out of there and have dinner in there and stuff like that, or spend the night, and I like it all right, but I wouldn't go across the street. Andrew, if I made a wrong turn in Compton, never want to go back down there. Yeah, we used to deliver hanging meat down in Compton, and you never went in there before the sun started coming up. Fred says, Rube's truck stop, dangerous truck stop back in the day. Where is that, Fred? That sounds familiar. Rube's truck stop. I should know that. I'm getting old. My memory's going. It's Jersey City. There's why I didn't know it right off. I avoided Jersey City. I avoided Jersey like the plague. I did not like New Jersey. In all my trucking, I've never been to Long Island either. Like I've been in and out of, where JFK Airport is, whatever section that's called. But I've never been to Long Island, for instance. Never wanted to go. I hear it's not that bad, but yeah, Jersey's got some dumpy places. Kelly Patterson, first time I stopped in Gary was a TA truck stop, and a lot lizard walked right up to me at the truck and said, "You owe me money." Yeah, Gary's quite the town. I think it's a little better than it used to be too, like Gary, Indiana, but it was a rough place back a few years ago. Thunderstorm 87. I think some of the food at these truck stops are scarier than the actual building. Yeah, that's true. Some of the worst truck stop food I ever had was in some of the older Flying J's, and I don't know, you'd end up in one of these places because the road was shut down because of a storm or something like that. Rawlins, Wyoming. We got stuck in a snowstorm in Rawlins, Wyoming. Me and the Lettuce King, and the only parking we could find was, it used to be Gay's truck stop in Rawlins, and then the Flying J bought it, and oh man, we ate in there that night because we were stuck and we had no choice. But oh god, it was terrible. It wasn't that bad when it was Gay's, but when the Flying J bought it, it went through the basement. Pilot's Mystery Meat gave you Nick's version of bombs. Thunderstorm 87. I've seen drivers eat the meals you warm and cook in the metal tray on the engine. That's disgusting. I have a story about running into a family that worked for Prime that was doing that, and I couldn't believe people would even do that. Like the smell off the block when you're cooking your food. You wonder why your TV dinner smells like diesel fuel. Mike Rainey, down in New Orleans, woman runs up to me saying I ran over her foot. I said, you were moving pretty good for someone that just had a 76,000-pound truck run over that foot. Oh, yeah, anything to get money out of you. Yeah, give me $20, I won't call the cops. New Orleans is another hole. It's, a fabled scenic city, but not a very nice place when you get down in there. I used to go into a couple of the refineries down in New Orleans. Not very nice. I was always glad to get out of there. Too bad too. It's kind of pretty country, but not the greatest place to be. Since I'm new here, I am wondering, this is Southern Indiana Sawmill, where did the nickname for your friend the Lettuce King come from? I believe it was my wife gave him that. There are conflicting reports about that, but my recollection is that my wife gave him that name years and years ago, because we all went to, my daughter was really little, and we all went to Anaheim, California, and took my little girl, and the Lettuce King was with us, and he stood on the hood of his truck with his arms crossed and this towel, a cape, flying out behind him, and a Mad Hatter cap on that he bought at Disneyland, and Kathy called him the Lettuce King, and big old floppy running shoes with holes in the toes, and ever since then Kathy had been calling him Lettuce King. And then he found a guy in a cooler, one of the lettuce coolers, with a Lettuce King hat. Well, he just had to have that. He paid like $20 or $30 for this used cap, but wore it proudly for a while. Oscar, do you know that Capri Green's projects was knocked down? Yes, someone else had told me that too, and good riddance. And I was watching something on the worst neighborhoods in Chicago the other day, and it wasn't listed in there, so I assumed it must be gone. But it was scary. Dave, any opinions on Whistling Diesel? I'm not sure what that is, Cabano. Not sure what that is. SoCal, I have a huge groundhog looking up at me right now. He comes by every day. The wife and I named him George.
He's got some good
Kathy says you got some good meds going there, SoCal. see if you can saddle him. Is he big enough to do that? See if you can throw a saddle on him. Grilled Mortal, Roadkill Cafe, poodles and noodles, dear delight served with gravel and hood ornaments, Irish setter now stew, German shepherd pie. Oh man. Jeff Sutton says Houston sucks also. Yeah, I've delivered in Houston, but I always left as soon as I could. I didn't hang around. It's either Houston or Dallas. I want to say it's Dallas. That the Flying J in Dallas is another truck stop you can get shot at. I think it's the one in Dallas. I used to go into Arlington, deliver in Arlington, and go out past that Flying J, and you could hear the gunshots at night. Stephanie's here. Not as bad as some truck stops, but the Garlic Farm in Gilroy has a lot of activity after hours. Yeah, Caprini Gree is gone, she says. Garlic Farm in Gilroy. You know what? I drove by there all the time, and I never did stop in there. I didn't know that. I could believe it, but I didn't know that. Whistling Diesel is a famous YouTuber. Check him out for yourself. Whistling Diesel is a famous YouTuber. I will check him out. I never heard of him. Okay, thanks, Cubano. Appreciate it. I'll check him out. Is our place still closed? Haven't been there in forever. No. Kyle says Dallas sucks big time. Yeah, it does. Dallas sucks big time, says Kyle. And Fred, I think it was Fred Besmer and I were talking about our place, and he said it's open now, limited hours, I believe. Tim Field says Whistling Diesel is just dumb. When he first started, he was okay because he would test things out, but now he just wants to tick people off. Well, I'm gonna have to check this guy out. I've never heard of him. SoCal says that groundhog's like 15 pounds. That's a big groundhog. I'd be locking my doors. Yeah, it's bigger than the cats we have around here. Quadrajet King, the new EPA 21 diesels are out now. Just more regulation for better fuel economy and reduced methane emissions. Yes, but do they run? I know they get great emissions when they're not running, but are they any better mechanically? They've had so much trouble with these others plugging up all the time and sensor issues and just get the bugs out of them, for God's sakes. They're costing owner-operators money, a lot of money.
Jonathan with another 10. Thank you for that. I watched a guy steal a spare tire from a trailer in PFJ in Dallas. He probably got a whopping $5 for it and ruined someone's day for that, and he called the cops as well.
Yeah, just, some places it's not even safe to park and run in and grab a sandwich. I always heard that place. I was never in there, but I always heard it was like that. I avoided that like the plague, those places.
All right, chat. Well, it's getting to be that time of day again.
Well, I guess we should start to wrap it up there. Thank you all for joining us. I've enjoyed the stream as I always do. We found out that SoCal's got a 15-pound groundhog going on there, and I don't think it's the meds. I believe him. I believe him. Try to capture him. Try to rope him in. We want to check him out. Get a picture. See if you can get a picture of the guy. The groundhog is what we're talking about. Shocker says, why many companies use 9-speed trucks? It's cheaper or what? Cheaper, and they're bulletproof. That you just even the worst rookie you've ever run into generally can't break a 9-speed. That's why they like them, and they're cheap to buy. Don't end live stream, guys. We gotta do it sooner or later. We got a good video coming up this Friday, for this coming Friday, and it's called "How to Make a Right Turn and a Left Turn Without Hitting Anything." So stay tuned for that. Lee Harvey says, "SoCal, when's the barbecue?" Oh, you can't. I'm not sure I'd want to have groundhog any day, but anyway, I'm a new owner-operator, just bought my first truck. I'm not mechanically inclined, but do you have a list of things I should check on my truck? And he's gone. I'm not an expert on the new trucks, but I just keep, apparently there's, with your manual, the dash light will flash codes to you if it discovers a problem. I'd memorize that manual, figure out how to work the code system so you can know what's wrong with the truck when it senses it, and get a map of where the dealerships are, because some of these codes can wait and some of them can't. My understanding is that if the codes flash orange, you're not in real trouble yet, but if the codes flash red, you need to get to the dealership ASAP. So I would scope out all the dealerships that deal with that type of motor in the area that you're going to be running, so you can make a mad dash for one if you need to. But yeah, memorize the manual. That's all I can tell you. What's the scariest thing you've hit or ran over?
Just about ran over somebody. Remember the drunk?
Oh God, yes. I was coming in. I was going west on I-80, and I'd come into Utah, and I was done for the night. It was late at night, and there was a rest area just inside the Utah line, and I decided I wasn't a big rest area guy, but I decided I couldn't go any farther, and I was wheeling into this rest area, and I saw something on the laneway into the rest area. I was still doing about 40 miles an hour, 35, 40 miles an hour. There was a guy asleep, a drunk, lying right across the laneway, the entrance laneway to the rest area. As I was pulling in, my headlights picked him up, and first it just looked like a speed bump, but I knew it shouldn't be there because I'd been in there before. So I actually got stopped and got out, and it was a drunk passed out asleep right across the lane. And if I hadn't been paying attention, like, I was tired, but I caught this, I saw this thing, and I got it stopped. It was a drunk passed out right across the laneway, and I'd have squashed him flat, the stupid bugger. And I had to work to wake him up. He was that drunk, but it scared me bad. I thought, man, what if I'd just taken the chance and thought it was like a branch off a tree or something, but SoCal says the groundhog's piling on the pounds, so he's coming up for his hibernation. So if you're going to saddle the guy, or at least get a picture of him, you got to do it soon. Oh, you got pictures? Cool. We'll send them. Oh, there it is. I have pics. Send them along, man. We want to check them out. Groundhogs are herbivores, just like an Angus cow. And look at the size of those cows. So maybe we could carve a few steaks off them, but I think we'll just let them hole up for the winter. No, groundhog burgers, Kathy says. The wife feeds him celery, spinach, and peanuts. So he's like a pet. So we can't be carving him up. Thunderstorm 87. Thanks, Dave. You guys are awesome. Well, thank you for saying so. We love doing these streams and chatting with you guys. God, we get a lot of laughs out of them. SoCal, my Volvo has a 565 Cummins ISX Quadrajet. I don't know enough about the Cummins motors. I didn't recognize Quadrajet as being a Cummins setup. Interesting. So, God, what were we talking about? The International motors. And International and Cummins work together on some of the engines too. Huh. But SoCal, you said your motor's been awesome, so interesting. Where are we here? I guess we better wrap her up. Happy Halloween, everybody. Yeah, and Fred, there's a recommendation for the guy with the new truck. Fred says, get a scanner tool. Yeah. Quadrajet King says, ISX or X15 SoCal has Quadrajet. Kelly Patterson, I heard of an elk on Highway 26 eastbound in Oregon, like you're towards Bender jumping down off the embankment. That'd certainly wake you up. Oh, we better go. Those elk are big, though. You wouldn't want to mow one of those. You run into those, well, you don't run into them, but you see them up on the Trans-Canada, up in BC sometimes, and they don't hurry out of the way either. You just kind of got to wait on them. You sure don't want to hit one. Gabano says, have you ever thought about doing live streams on Twitch? No, I have not. I don't even know what a Twitch is, but my team here,
We literally have had a lengthy conversation over this topic before.
So I leave all the technological stuff up to them. I can barely work this laptop, as you've probably noticed. So I saw 2 wild pigs on I-59 in Mississippi a few days ago. That's from Mike Rainey. Those things are getting to be a problem, eh? They're just like everywhere. I was addressing Quadrajet King, Dave. Oh, okay. SoCal, you scared me. I thought, man, I didn't know anything about this, but all right. Well, you guys take care. Keep the rubber side down. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I don't know what you've got there. Anyway. Let me see. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Stay safe, and we'll see you on the back haul. Thanks for joining us.